Can AI and blockchain rescue Americans from rule by the rich? Hello, everyone. Welcome to our channel. Today, we'll explore the realities behind the political systems in Western democracies. We're diving into a controversial but evidence-backed topic. Are Western governments truly democracies, or are they actually oligarchies controlled by the wealthy elite? Stay with us for the next 20 minutes as we unpack this challenging question and also educate citizens on a potential solution using two very powerful technologies: artificial intelligence and blockchain. The narrative we've been told is clear and simple. Western governments represent the pinnacle of democracy. The U.S. has gone to war and invaded Iraq and many other countries to overthrow rich, powerful dictators and impose democracy. But was democracy the real reason, or was it something else? What if the real reason was to enrich the oligarchs in Western nations? Yes, this is true because Western governments themselves, particularly the United States, aren't actually democracies at all. And we're not referring to the technical distinction some make about the U.S. being a republic rather than a democracy. We're talking about something much more profound. Let's establish what we mean by democracy. At its core, a democracy is a system of government ruled by and for the people, representing the interests of the citizens of the country. By this definition, we would argue that the United States and many Western nations fail to qualify. Instead, they function as oligarchies or plutocracies, systems where power rests with a small number of extremely wealthy individuals. The evidence for this claim isn't merely anecdotal. Social scientists from Princeton and Northwestern universities conducted a comprehensive study analyzing 1,779 policy issues in the United States. Their conclusion, published in a peer-reviewed academic journal, was striking. Here is what they concluded. Multivariate analysis indicates that economic elites and organized groups representing business interests have substantial independent impacts on U.S. government policy, while average citizens and mass-based interest groups have little or no independent influence. In plain English, the data shows that the United States functions as an oligarchy. Regular working people have minimal influence on government policy. Instead, economic elites and large corporations drive decision-making. As an example, consider healthcare in America. For decades, poll after poll has shown that a majority of Americans support universal healthcare. A survey from July 2025 found that 59% of Americans want Medicare for all, while only 27% oppose it. Yet this popular policy remains unimplemented regardless of which party holds power. Why? Because the private healthcare industry wields immense influence through political donations, effectively blocking policies that threaten their interests. The organization Open Secrets, which studies the influence of money in U.S. politics, found that in over 90% of races for the House of Representatives and over 80% for the Senate, candidates with more campaign contributions, predominantly from corporations and wealthy individuals, win their elections. In the 2024 elections specifically, 94% of top spending candidates in the House and 88% in the Senate won their races. This isn't democracy, or if you insist on calling it democracy, it is the best democracy that money can buy. It's an oligarchy or plutocracy where a small group of corporate elites effectively purchase elections. The situation worsened after the 2010 Supreme Court ruling in Citizens United, which declared that corporations are people with unlimited free speech rights, defining free speech to include financial contributions to politicians. This decision removed limits on campaign contributions, allowing corporations and billionaires to fund politicians without restriction, a practice that would be considered a legal bribery in many countries. Let us take a brief pause to reflect on what we've covered so far. We've established that by definition, Western governments, particularly the United States, function more as oligarchies than true democracies. Economic elites and corporate interests wield disproportionate influence over policy, while average citizens have minimal impact. This isn't conspiracy theory. It's backed by peer-reviewed research from prestigious institutions. Now, let's look at some concrete examples that illustrate this power structure. Donald Trump's presidency provides perhaps the most transparent demonstration of oligarchic rule, though as we'll see, he's merely a symptom, not the cause. In Trump's 2024 campaign, his three largest donors were all billionaires. Elon Musk, through SpaceX, contributed $288 million. Timothy Mellon gave $150 million, and Miriam Adelson donated over $100 million. Musk later boasted on his social media platform that without his support, Trump would have lost the election, essentially bragging about how the world's richest man bought the White House. Trump, a billionaire himself, filled his administration with other billionaires. To be fair, this isn't exclusively a Republican problem in the United States. Democratic administrations show the same patterns. When Joe Biden was campaigning for president in 2019, he reassured wealthy donors at a Manhattan hotel that he would not demonize the rich, promising that no one's standard of living will change, nothing would fundamentally change. True to his word, during his 4-year presidency, nothing fundamental did change in the power structure. Barack Obama's response to the 2008 financial crisis, the worst since the Great Depression, was to bail out the very Wall Street institutions that caused it. This becomes less surprising when you look at his campaign donors. Goldman Sachs was his second-largest contributor, followed by other major financial institutions and tech giants like Microsoft, JP Chase, Google, and Citigroup. And Obama's Republican opponent in 2008, John McCain, received similar backing from Wall Street firms like Merrill Lynch, JP Chase, Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, and Goldman Sachs. Fast forward to 2012, and Obama's challenger was Mitt Romney, co-founder of private equity fund Bain Capital, whose campaign was predominantly funded by Wall Street institutions. After the Citizens United 2010 Supreme Court ruling, it became more difficult to track political donations due to the creation of super PACs, which allow large corporations and billionaires to obscure their political spending. Nevertheless, we know that Michael Bloomberg was the biggest donor to Biden's 2020 campaign, contributing over $94 million through his company. When candidates with true democratic beliefs do attempt to challenge this corporate oligarchy, they face brutal political and economic warfare. The anti-poverty organization Oxfam summarized the situation well. Extreme concentration of wealth is leading to extreme concentration of power, allowing an ultra-rich few to tighten their grips on governments, economies, and media. Oligarchy is not created overnight. Decades of policies and politics across parties in favor of megacorporations and the ultra-rich have got us here. The gap between the democratic ideals Western nations profess and the oligarchic reality they practice is wide and growing. As citizens, we have a responsibility to acknowledge this discrepancy and work toward creating political systems that truly represent the will of the people rather than the interests of economic elites. So where does this leave us, the ordinary voters? If Western governments are functioning as oligarchies rather than democracies, what are the implications? And more importantly, what can be done? Understanding the problem is the first step toward addressing it. Recognizing that our political systems are dominated by wealth rather than popular will of the people allows us to begin considering structural reforms that might restore genuine democratic governance. These could include campaign finance reform to reduce the influence of money in politics, stronger anti-corruption measures, greater transparency in political donations, and economic policies that reduce wealth inequality, which translates into political inequality. Sure, this all seems good, but you have to first win the elections and then work on the reforms challenge. And to win elections, you have to first break down the doors that are blocking you. The good news is that there are plenty of options to break down these doors, but among the top is the option to embrace modern technologies. And we're not talking about just social media, etc., because I am sure people are using those already, but frankly, those are not enough. Besides, social media has some very nasty side effects that are detrimental to the freedom cause. One of them is that social media allows the oligarchs to flood your screens with false narratives and also create echo chambers to give credibility to those narratives. The second one is that the richest lot among the oligarchs are the ones who own these social media platforms. They own the platforms, but your data is their real asset. And as you use Facebook, Twitter/X, Instagram, etc., more and more, you are inadvertently increasing the value of the media giants' assets. And your ever-growing data is making them wealthier each day. So, we'll talk about the options that most people just don't know about. And today we're going to dive deep into how AI and blockchain technology, beyond just cryptocurrency, offers a revolutionary pathway for ordinary citizens to challenge entrenched power structures. Let's begin with a critical distinction. When most people hear about blockchain, they immediately think of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. But that's exactly the narrow framing that benefits the financial elite. Bitcoin is merely one application of blockchain technology, just the tip of the iceberg of what this revolutionary technology can actually do. Bitcoin is arguably the more recognizable word than blockchain, but the average person on the street does not know that in fact Bitcoin is just another application using blockchain as the underlying technology innovation. So let's explain this in more detail. Bitcoin is a digital currency that was built using blockchain technology. A blockchain is a series of transactions that are recorded and put into individual groups, actually called blocks in blockchain lingo, and these blocks are recorded on a public distributed ledger, forming one long, unchangeable chain. And that's where the name blockchain comes from, because the ledger stores information in form of an unbreakable chain of blocks. Because Bitcoin was one of the first official cryptocurrencies, its invention was one of the first examples of blockchain technology. It could be said that both of these were invented by Satoshi Nakamoto, or at least a group of anonymous developers working under that name. But since the arrival of Bitcoin in 2009, blockchain has actually been used for many other things, including smart contracts on Cardano, Ethereum, privacy coins like Monero, and an entire world of decentralized finance models. So just think of blockchain as an infrastructure layer like the internet, but highly secure, impenetrable, and unbreachable. And like a Google browser or an online store and shopping cart that runs on the internet, Bitcoin is an application that runs on a highly secure and encrypted blockchain network. Now you know the difference between Bitcoin and blockchain. Why is this distinction important? Because powerful financial interests have strategically focused public attention on cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which they heavily invest in, while deliberately downplaying blockchain's broader democratic potential. It's like showcasing a small component of a powerful race car while keeping the full vehicle hidden from public view. So what exactly is blockchain capable of beyond cryptocurrency? At its core, blockchain technology offers unprecedented transparency, security, and decentralization. When augmented with artificial intelligence, it can transform governance in ways that directly challenge oligarchic control. Imagine election systems with 100% transparency, government purchasing systems where every transaction is publicly verifiable, international aid programs where every dollar can be tracked to its final destination. These aren't futuristic dreams. They're achievable applications of blockchain technology that eliminate the very spaces where corruption and influence peddling thrive. The current political reality in America and many other countries is that elections are largely determined by funding. Wealthy individuals and interest groups contribute millions to campaigns, essentially purchasing influence over policy decisions. This creates a feedback loop where policies benefit the affluent donors rather than ordinary citizens. But what if we could create a new funding model using blockchain? Picture this scenario: 10 million citizens each contributing just $10 monthly to a blockchain-based democratic fund. That would generate $100 million every month, or $2.4 billion over a 2-year election cycle. That's enough to rival the wealthiest super PACs and fund credible candidates who aren't beholden to oligarchic interests. This wouldn't be a conventional organization vulnerable to corruption or mismanagement. It would operate as what's called a decentralized autonomous organization, or DAO. Through smart contracts and AI-powered governance algorithms, funds could only be used according to transparent rules agreed upon by contributors. Here's how it might work. Credible political figures with proven track records would form a blockchain-based DAO with built-in checks and balances. The platform would use reputation tokens, AI-driven background checks, and other verification methods to ensure candidates receiving funding truly represent the people's interests. Every contribution and disbursement would be transparent and immutable on the blockchain. This isn't just a theoretical proposition. It's a practical application of existing technology that could fundamentally alter power dynamics. Our current political system offers voters what many feel is a choice between lesser evils, with both major parties heavily influenced by the same corporate and wealthy donors. Blockchain offers an escape from this trap. It provides a mechanism for citizens to collectively pool resources in a way that rivals the influence of the super wealthy. And because blockchain is inherently resistant to centralized control, The oligarchs who dominate our current system can't easily co-opt or shut down such initiatives. The power of blockchain lies precisely in what the financial elite don't want widely understood: its capacity to create truly democratic systems where transparency is non-negotiable and collective action can effectively challenge concentrated wealth and power. So while Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies get the headlines, it's blockchain's potential to revitalize democracy that represents its truly revolutionary value. By leveraging this technology, citizens can create viable political alternatives, break the two-party monopoly, and fundamentally transform governance to serve the many rather than the few. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of how AI and blockchain technology can empower citizens in the fight against oligarchy. We hope you've gained some valuable insights about the transformative potential of this technology beyond just cryptocurrency. Until next time, remember that the tools for democratic renewal are already within our reach. We just need to harness them effectively. Thanks for watching. We hope you found the video informative and engaging. Please stay tuned to our channel for the latest updates and insights from the world of blockchain and AI. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting content.